Monoclonal antibodies are life-saving therapies that are used after infection to prevent more severe outcomes. So clearly the way to protect people and save more lives is to get them vaccinated. Just 7 states are making up 70% of the orders. Our supply is not unlimited, and we believe it should be equitable.
They say they're cutting it because of equity. Well, look, the South has had higher prevalence this summer. That will shift, and then as more states and other parts of regions need it, we understand that. But part of the reason we've used a lot is because I have made it a priority in the state of Florida.
By the way, that DeSantis audio is scratchy. It is not me. It's not our equipment.
This time?
It's not you guys listening. No, it's not. It's just that audio. All right, we got something going on here. I just called our friend John.
Okay.
He's my oldest friend now. Oldest friend who's listening anyway. Keith may have edged him out by a couple of years. I don't think he listens. He pretends to it.
His dad does.
Yes, that's true. Hello, Mr. M. I'm going to out him just in case his retirement community is
liberal-minded.
I get the feeling they're not, considering he's in Ron DeSantisville. I hope he doesn't need any monoclonal sub-antibodies. What are they called?
Monoclonal antibodies.
All right, Al, so listen, I just talked to John. I had to run this by him because you and I have been running around every day, all day today. In the morning, I was on the radio, and it just in the total... just gone, and then I took my walk for like an hour and a half, listened to Callahan's podcast, some Todd Feinberger. Sorry. Apologize. So, and then I read all the backlog of messages from Florida, including Pushadwa.
Christina
Pushaw, who we love.
Yes.
And I saw the bunch of stuff that you were had been looking into, etc. And from my understanding, and I just ran this by my friend John, who's I've known forever, because I seem to have found something. It's like finding a unicorn in my yard. I need another set of eyes to look at this thing.
Just make sure. Am I seeing what I think I'm seeing right now?
So what I'm seeing is that Ron DeSantis has been using these monoclonal antibodies as treatments in Florida very successfully.
Yes.
Against people who have COVID. On people who have COVID, and it's been a wonderful
so that they don't die or use hospital space, which we are told is a big urgent problem.
Yes. I understand.
Okay.
So I remember reading a couple of weeks ago that these things were all bad and evil and terrible and didn't work, and DeSantis was a monster. And then everybody seemed to slowly warm up to them, and now they're all the rage. This is a huge, great thing. So then my understanding is the Biden administration, the FDA, whatever, the Biden administration, has now suddenly changed the rules, and now they are going to ration out these to each state. And Florida is going to get less than 50% of what it needs of this life-saving medication. The Biden administration has, they claim through a lens of equity, has essentially punished DeSantis and Floridians for not getting vaccinated in the way that the Biden administration wants them to, in the numbers that they want them to, and or for DeSantis being a successful politician. And plainly put, it seems to me that the Biden administration is taking away life-saving medication from Floridians, which is going to willfully result in deaths.
It seems like that.
I don't know. Like it's like Biden has declared war on Florida. This is remarkable. These people are using these medications. They need the medications. The administration suddenly is changing and saying, no, you can't. You only get your equitable share of Medicaid. This is effing crazy. This is homicidal, Alice. I don't understand this. So I ran it past from John, and he essentially agreed. He said, "Yep, that's right. It's certainly punitive. You are taking life-saving treatments away from people. You're taking them away because you hate this guy. You're taking them away. You're taking from people who need these medicines to live. who need them to live because they have COVID, you're taking them away and giving them to people who haven't asked for them and don't need them.
Right.
How is the general alarm not being sounded here?
Well, and not to mention...
So the Biden administration is going to kill a bunch of Floridians in order
to make a point to Ron DeSantis.
To make a point to Ron DeSantis and the rest of the country because his patience is worn thin.
Yeah. Because these Republican governors have pledged to fight the Biden administration's vaccine mandates for every company with more than 100 employees in the country, which is, I mean, it's absurd. The federal government doesn't have that power, nor should they. And it's not going to hold up in court. It's merely a bullying tactic. They're mad now. They're mad that Ron DeSantis has stood up to them. They're mad that he won't demand that his population be vaccinated, whether they want to or not. And, it's really about, because it's really not even about that they're not vaccinated enough. Mm-hmm. Because Florida is in the middle of the pack for vaccinations. It's not like Florida is some cesspool of unvaccinated people. And, by the way, we're going to have the Delta variant move right up here in the fall. I mean, like, California is 57% fully vaccinated, and Florida is 56% fully vaccinated.
And DeSantis has been pushing vaccinations. He's also been pushing these things.
He just hasn't been forcing people to get vaccinated. That's the difference here.
Right, and he's been famously mask choice.
Right. Now, the interesting thing about the monoclonal antibodies thing is, as you pointed out, they initially tried to smear Ron DeSantis with pushing monoclonal antibodies, to say that he was only pushing it because his buddy in Citadel was going to make money off of it because he had some tiny percent of the stock of the Regeneron company that's making these monoclonal antibody treatments. Of course, that's ridiculous. It was debunked. These were purchased by the federal government. And to be honest with you, I hadn't even heard of them until the Ron DeSantis scandal. I mean, I think there was like some vague mumblings when Trump took it as an experimental thing, right? But, Ron DeSantis pushed these because his population in his state was getting hit hard with COVID at a time when it's not going to help you now to vaccinate people when you're already having the surge happen in your state.
Right.
It doesn't help you to run out and tell people who are getting COVID right now to go get vaccinated because they need to take one shot and then wait 3 weeks and then take the next shot and then 2 weeks after that. So 5 weeks from now doesn't help you.
Well, it may help you, but the immediate help is
it's not going to take the load off your hospitals
right.
to urge people to go get vaccinated, which he does anyway. He does urge people to go
right.
get vaccinated. He's made the vaccines available. That was his last scandal, was that he made the vaccines too available. Now
using the stores, the
public stores.
Right.
And then now the next scandal is that he made monoclonal antibodies too available, and the treatments are free. They were purchased by the federal government.
And that's what you had in 1570 Project.
Right,
that was the theme of that. Christina Pushaw was all about that.
Right, is he was making these treatments available. There wasn't enough knowledge about them. People didn't know that this was an option, and that after exposure or before you're hospitalized, you need to go out and get this treatment to prevent hospitalization. And Fauci has said this too. This isn't some Ron DeSantis thing. Fauci said that it reduces your chances of being hospitalized by 80%. Like, who wouldn't want that, right? So, but now Ron DeSantis has popularized this. He's made it hugely available. He's had free walk-up clinics that have been really popular and that have probably saved huge numbers of lives in his state. Huge numbers of lives. And other governors have seen the success of this, including Abbott, including all the governors in the South who've been getting hit hard. Mississippi, Alabama, these places where the left-wingers are only too happy to point and laugh when the people are dying in the hospital. Well, when they go out and they advocate for their citizens and they make sure that they can get the life-saving treatment so they're not dying in the hospital for you to laugh at them about it, when they're not doing that, then they got too successful at saving their citizens' lives. That's the problem. There were too many people getting the medicine that cures COVID. Oh, no.
Right.
Big problem. And so the Biden administration, instead of saying, wow, there's a lot of demand for monoclonal antibodies, time to ramp up production, yet let's use the Defense Production Act, let's go out and buy a bunch more of these. No, because if we work on a cure, that interferes with our vaccination push. And we've decided to make the vaccination push the centerpiece of our COVID policy that we're now doing. So it undermines our vaccine mandate if we go out and buy a bunch more treatments, right? So no, they're not doing that. Instead, they're cutting off red state governors from the supply of monoclonal antibodies. They're rationing it. They're telling each state how many they're allowed to have by their little analysis of case rates and whatever, and not just by what they think their state needs.
This is like, flushing them out by flooding the room.
Right.
It's monstrous. It's freaking, this is monstrous. I don't know what you want. Kids in cages is humane compared to this. You're not allowed to just cut people off of a life-saving element because you're the federal government and you're angry.
Yeah, and the company is out here saying, and so I assume you'll play Jen Psaki here at some point. She's saying we put it in the intro, I guess. She's saying, like, we have a limited supply, we don't have enough, and the company's over here saying, there's not a limited supply, we can make more,
right.
There's plenty.
We'll play Psaki.
Come buy more.
Here's a question and answer with Psaki today, and I'll tell you one thing. She's good at her job. But she has made a decision.
He promised on September 9th that he was going to send 50% more supply of monoclonal antibodies to states. Yet, the Biden administration is cutting supplies in red states by 50%. So, for example, in Florida, they were expecting to get 70,000 doses this week, which they say they need. They're only getting 30,000 doses. And this is not just for unvaccinated people. In South Florida, half the people who are seeking this treatment are fully vaccinated. So why is the Biden administration cutting these supplies?
That's not accurate. So let me give you the accurate information. First of all, we are increasing our distribution this month by 50%. In early August, we were distributing an average of 100,000 doses per week. Now we're shipping an average of 150,000 doses per week.
Her word trickery is, by the way, when she said that is not accurate, that is absolutely accurate. Mm-hmm. Yes, they can put whole numbers of monoclonal or whatever things out there. Mm-hmm. But if you're now spreading them to states and far reaches corners that don't need them and taking them off the top of Florida, then you take them away from red states, like she said.
They had better friggin' hope that nobody dies waiting for monoclonal antibodies in Florida, because, how are they going to spin that when they're going to have doses sitting there in stupid Vermont or somewhere where there's no COVID? And, people have been lining up for it in Florida because Ron DeSantis has successfully gotten the word out to people that this is like a hugely effective treatment.
Right. And so they're cutting off, and Psaki is lying right here when she says that, no, that is not true. We're increasing the amount coming out. Right, you're increasing the amount that you might as well just shoot into space because it's not where people need it right now. But, it's about equity. We'll get to that in a second. That's why she is pure poison at this moment.
Over the last month, though, and one thing that I think people need to understand for clarity, facts, I know you're like facts, is that monoclonal antibodies are life-saving therapies that are used after infection.
I just want you to think about that. Facts, I know you like facts. Monoclonal antibodies are things that are used, life-saving treatment that is used after infection. She says the words life-saving treatment. Mm-hmm. She says she qualifies it first by saying facts. Life-saving treatment.
To prevent more severe outcomes. So clearly the way to protect people and save more lives is to get them vaccinated so that they don't get
Wait, we just took an off-ramp there.
Yeah, something happened between the first half of the sentence and the second.
She said monoclonal antibodies are it's a life-saving treatment that you need after you've been infected with COVID.
Right.
So clearly the way to save lives should be make sure people still have their monoclonal antibodies. Mm-hmm. But she said she switches the topic over and says clearly the way to save lives is to have more people get vaccinated. Well, we're dealing with a pool of people right now, some of whom have been vaccinated and some of whom haven't, who have COVID.
Well, right. And like the reporter said in the question that the reporter asked just before she gave this absolutely insane answer, the reporter said 50% of the people seeking monoclonal antibody treatments in Florida are vaccinated.
Right.
COVID to begin with. But over the last month, given the rise in cases due to the Delta variant and the lower number of vaccination rates in some of these states, like Florida, like Texas, just 7 states are making up 70% of the orders.
Yeah.
So,
right.
I mean, so what percent of the COVID cases in the country are in those 7 states, Jen?
Right, exactly. Because those 7 states need the medicine.
Yeah, and plus, the medicine is a good thing. You
Yes.
want the states to be getting the medicine. So if Ron DeSantis is ordering a disproportionate amount of the life-saving medicine because his population is getting it because he's distributing it effectively, you never saw a complaint like that about the vaccine back in the spring. Like, oh, Massachusetts is using way more than their fair amount of vaccine. They're just getting it out to people much more efficiently than they ought to be. Other states are way behind and need to catch up. Massachusetts is getting too many people I mean, that didn't happen because Massachusetts wasn't, but just hypothetically. Like, there was no complaint like that. Like, oh, one state's doing way too good a job getting people vaccinated.
Because this is incredibly weak sauce. This is pathetic.
Our supply is not unlimited, and we believe it should be equitable across states.
Our supply is not unlimited.
And the company's going, it doesn't have to be
That's
limited.
No, she said our supply is not unlimited. Mm-hmm. Well, it kind of is. 2, that's not the point. This is such a our supply is not unlimited. Well, that's fine. That's way over here on the spectrum of this argument. The supply is not in danger and is needed right here, right now. Supply is not unlimited. Well, no supply of anything is not unlimited. We understand that. We understand. We don't have everything nothing is finite in the world, I think, probably, right?
Nothing is infinite.
No, finite, isn't it?
Finite is not infinite.
Infinite, that's what I said.
Across the country.
There's been no reports of a lack of supply, so why cut them to those states only if there's no reports of
I think our role as the government overseeing the entire country is to be equitable in how we distribute. We're not going to give a greater percentage to Florida over Oklahoma, nor do I think are you suggesting that. I think we have to move on. Go ahead, Yamiche.
Whoa, we have to move on. It's only tens of thousands of people who could die.
Yeah, if the other states aren't ordering them, maybe they don't have the infrastructure built out to distribute them to people. Maybe Ron DeSantis is ordering them because he's getting them to people that need them. It's unbelievable. Plus, these vaccine psychos, right? Like, they're all about vaccine. Well, that's great. But also, and this is like going to sound slightly mean, but people who get COVID who don't die also are immune to COVID then. So, and some studies say even more so than people who get the vaccine. The risk with getting COVID is that you could die from it. But they're also immune to the disease. So essentially a bunch of the population getting COVID and taking monoclonal antibodies and not dying leaves them in the same position as though they'd gotten the vaccine. So, like, why not? They're not going to be able to get the vaccine fast enough now to prevent them from getting COVID during this surge.
This is just...
So you might as well cure them from COVID. They count as another immune person walking around.
The point is that she is taking vaccine away from people who need it in the country. A vaccine that they could have cared less about 2 months ago, that they were happy to disparage and ridicule 2 months ago, and now it's our job as the overseer. It's our role.
It's Ron DeSantis' treatment, Tom.
Right.
Well, now he got a little too good at using it.
They see, exactly. So the state, the federal government now is going in and taking away life-saving treatments from an entire state because they have a problem with people, with Ron DeSantis and generally Floridians, and Biden has lost his patience. And so they're going to use tough love to force people into getting vaccines. People who already have it and are sick now.
Yeah.
They're going to take away their life-saving medication. Right now, they're taking it away. The people who need it. They might as well just take away their oxygen.
Yeah. And just remember Trump. Okay, so I know I beat this drum a lot, but remember with Trump how we got told that Trump wasn't working with some states well because they were Democrats or they were mean to him or whatever. He was too mean to Gretchen Whitmer or something. He didn't get along with some of the governors. And so there was all this projection that he was being mean to some states, even though he sent the stupid comfort ship to New York that Cuomo refused to use because it would look bad. So he just killed all the old people instead. But isn't that what Biden's actually doing? he's mad at some governors for making him look bad or having different politics than him or whatever. And he's now killing their citizens on purpose just because he doesn't get along with them.
This is effing crazy. Let's listen to Saki again.
I'll be
in
right
a bit.
there.
We will.
A few minutes.
Thank you, buddy. Thanks. Very
What a nice
amicable.
guy.
Yeah. I would say that his...
By the way, you can go on Locals and see that child vacuuming the floor in the dentist office with his head today.
That's excellent, because the dust on our floor, I would say, Alice, is infinite. Okay, hold on. Let me just see if anybody's calling me, and then you can have it.
Do you want mine, Cyril?
Yes, sir.
Here. Have the kids set it up for you.
Here you go. James, thank you. Okay, perfect. She's not going to change his diaper right now, James.
Oh.
Okay.
Take
okay.
it out
Guys,
of the room and set it up, please.
everything
James,
bad is
grab
happening.
it and go.
There you go. There you go. There you go. Grab your thing. There you go. Okay, let's listen to her again. Here's Saki again. You there?
Monoclonal antibodies are life-saving therapies that are used after infection to prevent more severe outcomes. So clearly the way to protect people and save more lives is to get them vaccinated.
What? Monoclonal antibodies save lives. So clearly the way to save lives is to not use them anymore.
So that they don't get the COVID to begin with. But over the last month, given the rise in cases due to the Delta variant and the lower number of vaccination rates in some of these states, like Florida, like Texas, just 7 states are making up 70% of the orders. Our supply is not unlimited, and we believe it should be equitable across states across the country.
Oh, she's a sick bastard, man.
Florida's vaccination rate is higher than the national average, by the way.
So
higher than the national average. So what I find just the absolute lying. So some of the states with the lower vaccine rates, like Florida, just taking up all the medical resources that the rest of you want. Like, can you imagine that? That's just a lie. Florida's vaccination rate is higher than the average nationally. Like, how can you just lie like that and have it, like...
And by the way, they are miscasting their sacred concept of equity.
Mm-hmm.
Equity was about race and gender and identity.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of, people of color, BIPOCs in Florida and Texas and Mississippi. And
It's a right out of academia. There are people who've been talking about it for decades now. It's a social justice-y thing, equity. It's a flawed, moronic way to look at things. But to use it because it's a word that kind of means equally...
Right.
And since they've made it a real thing, because they say it so much, even though it's nonsense, they've moved it over here to use a similar kind of meaning in this word as a concept that is tried and true, if not, written law at this point.
Yeah, well, I guess to them, the only way I can explain it is that to them, equity means taking stuff from Republicans and giving it to Democrats.
I guess so, but...
I mean, I think that's all the word means to them now at this point. So that's why they can cut off Florida from medicine and call it equity.
Obama won Florida in 2012. Mm-hmm. Was a purple state very recently. So there's going to be some friendly casualties involved in this equity experiment.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, what do they want the people to do? Rise up and overthrow DeSantis in order to be allowed to get medicine from the federal government now? It's really just, I mean, this is the type of stuff that the left told us that Trump would do or was doing with blue state governors, and he never did anything that was remotely like this.
No.
I mean, 100% projection with them, because that's the type of tools that they have in their toolbox mentally, is you won't go along with what I want you to do politically? Well, fine then. I'll just take away the medicine from your citizens and let's see how long you last.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's listen to DeSantis react today. I thought he was very calm. Once again, if you hear some scratchiness in the audio, that's him, not us.
We are very, very concerned with the Biden administration and the HHS's recent abrupt, sudden announcement that they are going to dramatically cut the number of monoclonal antibodies that are going to be sent to the state of Florida. Just last week, on September 9th, President Joe Biden said that his administration would be increasing shipments of monoclonal antibodies in September by 50%. And yet, on September 13th, HHS announced that it was seizing control of the monoclonal antibody supply and that it would control distribution. And then on September 14th, the announcement was more than 50% of the monoclonal antibodies that had been used in Florida were going to be reduced. So this is a dramatic reduction.
Right. We given no heads up. By the way, the state doesn't have the apparatus to handle this now. It's direct. It used to be direct to doctors. Now the state has to be the middleman with their reduced amounts.
Yeah.
Whatever. They're not set up to do it at all.
They say they're cutting it because of equity. Well, look, the South has had higher prevalence this summer. That will shift, and then as more states and other parts of regions need it, we understand that. But part of the reason we've used a lot is because I have made it a priority in the state of Florida. It had not been a priority at the federal government level for months and months and months.
Yeah, and part of the entire reason they're coming after him and coming after these monoclonal antibodies is because he had made it a priority.
Right. He got it to people that needed it because that's what our elected officials are supposed to freaking do. They're supposed to make the government work for people and make it smoother and get them what they need, not put up roadblocks and make things harder and sit around talking about equity and making your life more difficult. But that's all the Biden administration knows how to do. They only know how to throw a wrench into things that are already working.
It's, I don't even know. You know, I was telling John tonight, I deal with a lot of people, and I talk to a lot of people who believe the election was stolen, who believe that things are not on the up and up, who believe a lot of stuff that's borderline conspiracy, etc. A lot of people think that the Biden administration is trying to push us into a civil war. I am running out of ways to explain away things. I can't. If somebody says to me that the Biden administration using this adventure here with monoclonal antibodies is willingly killing Floridians in order to make a point or score political points, I cannot shoot that down.
Yeah, there's no response to that.
It seems to me it's obviously that.
Right. I mean, they should be, right now, going to Ron DeSantis and taking notes and saying, look, all you other governors, because the other states are going to need it. This thing is moving north. The same thing's going to happen this year that happened last year. Florida is a pretty darn vaccinated state, okay? It's not that different from up here. And probably late October, late November, in that range, like we probably will have another winter surge like we did last year. Hopefully not as many people will die, but like... I don't know what people expect to happen. These governors should be going around DeSantis and saying, great, perfect. We want to copy your exact monoclonal antibodies rollout system. We want to talk up monoclonal antibodies. We want to let people know as soon as they test positive, this is what they should do. Here are the sites. They should be building websites so you can search where to get it. And the Biden administration, far from trying to get in people's way who are trying to save lives, should be going out here and saying, great, we're going to ramp up production of this. We're going to make sure we get as much of it into the hands of governors as possible. We're going to make sure we have stockpiles of it so we don't run out if we have a big surge in the winter, whatever else. Their job is to get the states what they need, not to be like, whoa, wait a minute. Hang on. You're giving people too much of the life-saving medicine. Back up here.
Yep.
It's really unbelievable and backwards and just like you said, there comes a point when it's hard to come up with a different explanation than just malice, because it's either such gross incompetence or, you know, something, but it, like with the Milley stuff, it seems like the Milley stuff is like a troll. Like, no, we're keeping him. He's very patriotic. He's great. We love him. He's awesome. Trump is bad.
But
like,
just today, Alice, here's a CNN article. This is just today. Biden says Republican governors undermining his vaccine mandates are putting lives at risk. Seems like it would go hand in hand with a monoclonal antibody reduction delivery. On Thursday, defended his administration's new vaccine mandates and said Republican governors undermining the requirements and they're putting lives at risk. He says, we're facing a lot of pushback, especially from some of the Republican governors. The governors of Florida and Texas are doing everything they can do to undermine the life-saving requirements that I've proposed. There's your projection.
Yeah.
It's them doing everything. It's them doing everything to
Here we go. He tweeted.
Life-saving.
He tweeted 10 minutes ago. Well, he tweeted. Whatever. His comms team tweeted. Jen Psaki tweeted, Republican governors in states like Texas and Florida are doing everything they can to undermine the public health requirements that keep people safe. They're playing politics with the lives of their citizens, especially children. I refuse to give in to it.
Yes.
Excuse me? I refuse to give into it, so I'm cutting
What a
off the
bunch of
medicine to them. Who do they think is taking it all? Do they
bastards.
think Ron DeSantis is personally taking all of the monoclonal antibodies
Biden
himself?
and Psaki continue. Biden continues, this is the worst kind of politics because it's putting the lives of citizens of their states, especially children, at risk, and I refuse to give into it. What a POS. Wow. This is... Wow.
I can't remember Trump ever saying anything like
No.
this.
This is a guy rationalizing loudly for people why he's taking medicine away from people who could die without it. That's what's happening here. That's what this guy is doing. Remember that little telegenic lady from Alaska who ran for vice president in 2008, Alice? Used to use that term. What was that term she was using about government health care? The doomsday scenario that would happen, we would get what panels?
Death panels?
Right. Holy hell.
Yeah, sorry that you live in a state with the wrong type of governor that Joe Biden doesn't like. Guess you have to die. And then we'll sit around and laugh at you because you dared to live in the wrong friggin' state while getting COVID. Can you believe? I mean, like, the people that died in Cuomo's New York just get memory hold, and we pretend that that didn't even happen because, he shoved all the COVID-positive people back into the nursing homes rather than use any resources that Trump gave to him. But, if you die in a red state, then, we're going to make you famous and splash your face all over every newspaper and laugh at you for having the misfortune to be in a red state when you got COVID. Sucks to be you, I guess. Like, meanwhile, they're withholding the medicine. It's incredible. And I don't know. Do you think Ron DeSantis can, like, requisition his own? Like, that he can use some of their state resources to buy some? Because these are the ones, like, bought by the federal government. Or even, like, use COVID funds
Yeah, he's
from
up
the
to
federal
something. I think
government.
he's trying to work directly with companies now.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Like, if he could buy Florida's own stockpiles and do it, without the federal government. Because that's probably the way to go next. If Joe Biden's going to buy it and not give it to Florida, I would say Florida should buy it. Because he's made a very successful campaign to, like, get people to use these treatments. I don't know. I think that's probably the way to go. But yeah, it's incredible the nerve of Joe Biden. And, like, once again, just, like, politically, who likes that? Who's like, I guess the same people who are on Twitter cheering to not let unvaccinated people, like, use hospitals anymore, like those people, right? Like, who are like, yeah, keep them from using the health resources that are for the rest of us. But, like, that can't be a majority of the country. I don't think a majority of the country goes around saying, like, we shouldn't let unvaccinated people into the emergency room. Right? Like, I don't think a majority of the country possibly thinks that it's a good thing that Joe Biden is cutting off supplies of monoclonal antibodies to certain states depending on their politics. Can you imagine? Like, what constituency is this for? Who likes this except for, like, the most sociopathic partisans?
This is,
normal, like, middle of the road Americans who wanted decency to come back and, like, voted for Joe because they didn't like Trump's mean tweets. Like, if that's you, if you voted for Joe Biden because you, like, just thought Trump was, like, too crass and terrible and rude and awful, like, what do you think now? What do you think now? Like, how can you possibly be for this? That's what I don't get, I mean, I understand the people who just like lie and say it's about decency because they just want to elect Democrats. But, you know, I think there genuinely were people like in the middle of the road who kind of said like, Trump's just too much. Like, I can't deal with it. I just want like normalcy to come back, right? Like, don't you think there were people like that? But this isn't normal. This isn't like good and positive and uniting. We have a president who can't even come out on 9/11 because he's doing such a terrible job and getting people killed, right? And like, and people are telling us they want normalcy back. Like, that's not normal. It's not normal for a president to be complaining that, you know, that people he doesn't like are getting too much medicine. It's really shocking.
No, no. I mean, what are you gonna? You're taking away. Okay, fine. He's gonna kill the people. That's great. Okay. So, as far as where is Glenn? I have Glenn Greenwald here to take me through the Sussman stuff. There has been an indictment, obviously, as we know, from John Durham of this guy Sussman. Where is my guy? There's Glenn. There we go. Okay. You ready?
I'm ready. I'm listening.
You sure you're ready?
I'm ready. I think I'm ready.
Michael Sussman, the partner of Hillary DNC lawyer Marcy Elias, was just indicted on charges from Special Counsel John Durham that he lied to the FBI when he falsely denied representing the Clinton campaign while feeding the FBI and media the fraudulent Trump Alpha Bank story. Along with the FBI lawyer who previously pled guilty for lying to the FISA court to spy on ex-Trump campaign official Carter Page, it's clear that much of the criminality of the Russiagate was not from any Trump-Russia collusion, but by those who fabricated this conspiracy theory. Needless to say, one of the journalists who aggressively promoted the fake Trump Alpha Bank server story was Natasha Bertrand, at the center of so many Russiagate frauds, including the Steele dossier, and she got promoted over and over for it, now at CNN. The corporate media was so heavily invested in the Trump-Russia conspiracy fraud, and hatred for Trump is still sufficiently high that we haven't come close to acknowledging what a gigantic fraud the media perpetuated on the country for 5 years, all with this overarching them. Just as was true for those who pushed the Iraq WMD fiasco most aggressively, starting with Jeffrey Goldberg in the Atlantic, the journalists who committed the most fraud in Russiagate were the ones most rewarded. So this guy Sussman, actually, I guess it doesn't give me what I need, the details. Okay. Special counsel investigating the various frauds of Perkins Coie lawyer. He fed the fake story of this stuff to the FBI, and he told the FBI that he got it from independent sources when he really got it from the Hillary campaign. So that's what this guy did. He trafficked in propaganda from the team Hillary. So ideally, he flips up. We'll learn more about this and do more about it in a bit. But this is where we are right now. We'll see. Once again, talking to my friend, he's excited about this. I am apprehensive. I'm careful. I'm not going to get too excited. I would love there to be some justice for this, so we can finally begin to rebuild institutions. Because we're effed here. If you've seen what's going on the southern border, these thousands of people coming in from Haiti now, all stuck under a bridge.
Yeah.
The Biden administration, nothing about it.
No kids in cages.
The mess in Afghanistan. This killing people in Florida.
But all our children cried tears of happiness, honey, that the kids
away,
in cages were over.
Taking the medicine away. Inflation today. Joe Biden, talk about more gaslighting. Here's Biden on inflation today.
My Republican friends talk a lot about inflation. But if you want to talk about actually lowering the cost of living for people in this country, my plan does just that. By strengthening the capacity of our economy, we'll also reduce inflationary pressures over the long run.
By strengthening the capacity of the country.
Yeah, dumping a bunch more money into the economy.
In other words,
generally.
once I spend $3.8 trillion more of your money on shit-ass projects like Solyndra, like all the stuff he did last time, and other social welfare things that is just burning money away, once he does that, something might happen. And as a matter of fact, inflation it is the most empty, vacuous thing the guy could say. They don't have anything better than that. That's it.
Yeah. That's all he has.
That's like saying we don't have a non-endless supply of the medicine. It's like,
yeah, no
really?
kidding. That's been true before, too. There wasn't a non-endless supply of vaccines either, and we managed to get those to people. Like, explain to me how this works. He also said today that all the economic indicators are that gas prices should be going down. Oh.
We're also going after the bad actors and pandemic profiteers in our economy. There's lots of evidence that gas prices should be going down, but they haven't. We're taking a close look at that.
Well, why don't you start with a mirror to begin with? We're taking a close look. Once again, projection again. It's always somebody else did it, Remarkable.
Told me it would go down, and it didn't.
Before he finally strokes out or Kamala pushes him, is there anything he won't freaking destroy?
I don't know.
Seriously.
I mean, what's going to be left? What is
left? I mean,
you won't be able to afford to live. You won't be allowed to get the life-saving medicine. You won't be allowed to leave your house without a mask.
And a lot of my moles, a lot of my people that I follow think that he's tired, he's old, he sees an opportunity to have a legacy. He's listening to all the crazy progressive voices who are telling him the great overreaching things he can do, and he's getting excited by that. He's always been a cynical politician, happy they're going to put you back in chains. That's always been him. He's always been a dirty, dirty dude like that. So what's if you're a good progressive, a crazy progressive, you hate this country, and you've got a wish list. What do you want? What else do you want in your wish list?
You want to pack the court, obviously. That's top of mind. Right?
Absolutely.
Because the court is getting in the way of other stuff they want to do. So, and Joe Biden you're right. He's going down this path of letting himself get seduced by these people. Like, he knew when he came into office he couldn't extend the eviction moratorium. So then Cori Bush complains to him, and he's like, well, I know I can't do it, but I'm just going to do it anyway. Right. He knew he couldn't mandate vaccines for companies. Jen Psaki said it months ago. That's not the role of the federal government. That's not the role of the executive branch. We can't just make you get it. They knew this stuff. Just like he knew he can't do student loans, just like he knew he can't pack the court. He's going to unknow that stuff pretty soon.
Well, Alice, but remember, the left has done all of the almost exculpatory work for him. That word I just wanted to use, it doesn't make any sense in this.
Okay.
But I don't have a finite amount of words at my disposal.
An infinite amount of
Correct.
words? Okay.
So, what's the justification for packing the courts? A nice, simple sloganeering form.
Well, obviously they're going to overturn this stupid vaccine mandate.
What's the justification? The left slogan for packing the courts is...
Mitch McConnell already did it?
Yes, that Trump and the Republicans already packed the Supreme Court.
Right.
Merrick Garland should have been on that court. This already should have happened. Trump was always also illegitimate president, so all of the Supreme Court.
Oh, well, haven't you heard that? So all of Trump's, and then how many does Bush have still on the court?
At least two.
At least two. So five out of the 9 members of the court were selected by presidents who never got the popular vote. So the majority of the court doesn't reflect the will of the people, quote unquote, as though that's a thing that exists. But yeah, so I hear that one all the time too. The majority of the court was put there by presidents who never got the popular vote.
Right. So, which also means that a great, like you said, the majority of American people then are being underserved, which also means that there's a lack of what?
Mandate?
Equity.
Equity. Oh, right. Equity. I forgot about equity.
What did this person want?
I'm not a Democrat. She just opened her eyes really wide and then left again.
Okay.
I don't know what that means, but we'll wrap up in a couple minutes. But yeah, so I think the push, there was already the yelling about this with the eviction moratorium, about the Supreme Court again, right? It was all... They did this all before the election when it was Ruth Bader Ginsburg and all that stuff, right? But sort of there was this rumble of we need to pack the court with the eviction moratorium. And then the Texas abortion law happened and there was more rumbling about it. That pretty soon they're going to chuck this vaccine mandate into the bin, and that's going to be gone because the thing's not OSHA doesn't have the power to tell people to take shots. That's not a thing that OSHA can do. So So that's going to go away. And then, like, the outcry is going to start that, you know, that we need to do something because this unelected body that's not responsive to the needs of the people, that doesn't care about public health, that doesn't care about human rights like housing and healthcare, that doesn't care about, you know, women dying from back alley abortions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, like fill in the blank. These unelected elitist people who, like, half of them are probably rapists too, between like Kavanaugh and Thomas. I mean, like, just think of it, right? Like, that we need to do something about this, and the pressure is going to grow. I mean, I think that it's clear that, like, Manchin and Sinema don't want to pack the courts, but I don't know. Well, we're going to have to see, like, what approach they take to try and get around this, because I don't know exactly how they're going to try and worm their way in logistically to try and do it, but I think that's going to be a big one, that they're really going to want to do something about the courts in the next few months, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I definitely said, and also I would say, if you're a good progressive, guns.
That's true too. I mean, and they are going to take some gun cases in the near future that are biggies. So that's going to be a problem.
But the executive branch, why can't the CDC?
Because the Supreme Court's in the way. So, and that's what I was going to say too. Like, so if Biden decides he's not going to be able to get his agenda through Congress, which he's not, because it's an insane agenda, right? Like, he's going to decide the only way he can have a legacy and do the things his party is saying need to happen is going to be through the executive branch. And the Supreme Court has shown an unwillingness to allow him to work through the executive branch to do things that he does not have the legal power to do.
Right. Well, then you got to go around that.
So, yeah. So I think they're going to he's either going to try and pack the court, or he's going to force some kind of constitutional crisis with the court where he's going to try and not follow things that the court tells him to do. Like, that they're going to put an injunction that says he can't do something, and he's going to, like, try and enforce it anyway. You know? Because remember, everything on the left is projection. So if they talked about constitutional crises nonstop with Trump, they're going to cause one anytime now, I assume.
Speaking of projection, Alice, neither of us had our Himalayan salt lights on.
Oh, no. Why is that speaking of projection?
Because it projects light, dinkhead. Light is infinite, Alice.
Mine aren't Himalayan salt lights, though. They're just little, like...
No, they are. They are.
They're not made of Himalayan salt. That's
yes,
the
are.
pink salt. Yours look like little pink salts.
I got them from a guy, okay?
They're not. They're little round
By the
little
way,
globes.
I received criticism for wearing the shirt twice in 2 days in a row.
That shirt?
No, the other shirt.
You're crazy, ain't just Beyonce's husband shirt.
It is on you to dress me.
It is?
Yes. Appropriately.
I dressed myself and the other 4 children in the house.
I must be dressed appropriately. What's for dinner? What's in the stove?
Chicken enchiladas.
Is this a Stouffer?
It is a Stouffer product.
We don't like to name drop, but yes, we're having a Stouffer's meal this evening. That's because you guys purchased shirts, which you can still do at burnbarrel.com/purchase/infinite.com.
You can go to burnbarrelpodcast.com and there's a shop button right there. Anyway, thank you so much, as always, everybody, for listening and spreading the word about the podcast. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if you get a chance. That helps get it in front of more people, which is fantastic. You can also talk to us on Twitter at BurnBarrelPod, at Tom Shattuck, at Alice Shattuck. You can email us, burnbarrelpodcast@gmail.com, or as I mentioned, burnbarrelpodcast.com. We are also at facebook.com/burnbarrelpodcast and Burn Barrel Podcast on Gab and Parler.